All right. Well, welcome to Sorry if I spit when I speak. Today we're going to be talking about the future of the quarterback situation in Cincinnati. As always, I am joined by the great John Sheeran and the electric Oji Smoji.
That's right. I like that. I like that. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
going to get a little electric today because I have a lot to say about this
Yes, well,
quarterback situation.
yes, we all know that Zac Taylor has been very high on Andy Dalton. I mean, we kind
Oh
of
my
thought,
gosh! Oh my god! You're gonna start out with a smoke bomb like that. You're gonna start out dropping a stinky doogie like that on our show. You can't see what's going on with Zach Taylor. He's getting rid of Andy. You can't see
well,
that. Listen. I
well,
make a promise on this show right now. Listen to me, everybody. I make a promise right now. One of two things happens. Number one, Andy Dalton is stays on the team, but whoever is the backup is the real QB. He's going to leave him there for 6 months, give Andy Dalton a chance to fail, and then replace him. Number two, no Andy Dalton. He'll be gone by the time the season starts, and we'll have a new starter. And here is, you say, where's your proof? Oji, you're always saying stuff, you're not giving us proof. Well, I have proof. Look at what Zach has been saying in the media. What's the one thing that he's been pointing out as a big change in the way the Bengals offense is going to be run? Huh? Anybody? I wait.
Please tell us, because I don't know.
Ross. He says we're going to be using Ross a lot. And everybody who's
like Ross from Friends?
No, I wish, man. That guy, I love that guy's smile and charm. Yeah, I love
the worst character
of the show. But no,
John, like the John Ross of Friends characters.
Yeah, he is. But look, I'm talking about John Ross. I'm talking about the fast John Ross, whom Andy Dalton cannot use. I have some stats here about Andy Dalton's absolute failures in trying to get the ball to Ross. He just doesn't get the ball downfield, and everybody knows that. So it's pretty clear to me that when he says we're going to go in a direction where we're going to use Ross a lot, what he means is we're going to go in a direction where Andy Dalton will not be delivering the ball to Ross. It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
I wish you're here for our Ross discussion because you probably could have provided some good insight with that.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess what Oji is talking about is stats like this.
Right? Oh, man, it's a lot of data. Oh, wait, I compiled that. That's mine.
Yeah.
My that data. Is very, very impressive.
These are the people from John Sheeran Analytics have put this together for us.
Yeah, and really, John, what he's doing, it completely refutes what Hodgie is saying because it proves that Andy Dalton is one of the top 10 Bengals quarterbacks ever.
Easily.
And
how many quarterbacks have we had ever?
Well, just listen. He is 0.22 points ahead of Jeff Blake. Okay.
Jeff Blake was a god.
Well, I mean, to some.
He was a good quarterback. He is well ahead of John Kitna.
Dadio, should we explain what these numbers mean to the fans?
I think
we should. I think we should explain it to the host as well because I have no idea.
It's really interesting, actually. Yeah, John.
It's very interesting when you figure out the context bits. So, ProFootballReference.com, they have these metrics where they basically compare quarterbacks of all eras and put their completion percentage, yards per attempt, touchdown percentage. You can see all the stats on paper, and they put them with one uniform number. So instead of like the raw percentage, like 65% completion percentage, it gives them a raw number to equally compare from era to era. So you can see how well someone was at completing the ball in 1970 compared to how well someone did in 1990. Because as we all know, passing efficiency in the NFL has skyrocketed, at least over the past 15 years, but especially looking from 2019 to like 1978, the game is completely different on paper, at least. So these numbers give us a certain gauge of how well quarterbacks are spanning across eras. And what we see here is that the higher number is obviously better, and 100 is generally about average. I think that's what they use. So when looking at Andy Dalton highlighted, this is the 6 quarterbacks in Bengals history with at least 1,000 attempts. And all across the board, Andy Dalton averaged a 101.78 score. Now, that average is basically my work. It's not that those averages, you can't find them on the website. They just have like the numbers for passer rating, sack percentage, all that stuff. But I wanted to see, if we basically tallied up all these totals and took the average across all of them, how would Dalton compare to other Bengals quarterbacks in history? So obviously, Ken Anderson, Boomer Esiason, they're at the top, and we all pretty much knew that. Carson Palmer, who obviously played right before Andy, he was still better than him in most key areas. And then Dalton landed right next to Jeff Blake, and the only big differences with that was that Blake was a little bit worse at taking sacks, but Blake was also a lot better at protecting the ball in terms of interception percentage. And what we all remember from the Jeff Blake era was that there was barely an offensive line in front of him, and obviously interceptions were a lot more frequently around quarterbacks, and he was very good at taking care of the ball. And just from a physical standpoint, comparing Dalton to Palmer, who was a first overall pick, Blake, who had a cannon of an arm, Esiason, who had a generational arm of his own, and Ken Anderson, who was widely regarded as one of the most accurate quarterbacks of all time. Just in Bengals history, Dalton is still basically middling average. And then when we compare him to his peers now, we're looking at the 23 quarterbacks from the start of the 2016 season who have also attempted 1,000 attempts. Now, this doesn't include Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson or anyone drafted in that time frame without those attempts. But even looking at just the veteran quarterbacks across the NFL landscape, Dalton is below average. I mean, he ranks 18th out of 23 in these era-adjusted stats, and that's the important thing. From a complete era-adjusted perspective, his adjusted net yards per attempt is completely average.
But John, you made a good point that these numbers have skyrocketed in recent years, thanks in no small part to Andy Dalton. I mean, people like him.
What are you talking about? Dadio, you make less and less sense every time we have.
I'm saying he has put up big numbers, and now we have to
rethink how we evaluate. I need you to explain.
He's broken all sorts of franchise records.
What? Like, let me just say,
John,
Dadio,
John,
why do you have to
started the most games?
John
he did break the games record. He did break the games record.
He has started the most games.
Yeah.
He's been playing for a long time. Great job.
Yeah. He has they had the
most starts with red hair. I think he's got that.
Yeah, you have I'm being serious, John. Stop messing around. You have Achilles heel, and then you have the Dalton stump.
Hold on.
The only way you can ever hurt Dalton is attack his stump, because he is invincible except for that thumb. No. Think about that. Think about if he ever played at an elite level and he had the durability, he'd be unstoppable.
He has durability. The poor guy is doing fine in terms of durability. Look, he's an okay quarterback. But you know what? I'll tell you something else. Yes, he's mediocre when it comes to all the QBs we've ever had. Yes, he's on the lower end when it comes to all the QBs in the NFL. But he's not even all that great when you compare him to the other QBs we have on the roster. I'm talking about your Jeff Driscoll.
But okay, we get to Jeff Driscoll.
No. Time out.
I see Jeff Driscoll right now in front of me. Release his numbers.
I'm referring to.
Oh, okay, we go to Jeff Driscoll. Sure, we go to Jeff Driscoll. Yeah.
I'm referring to a tweet by the one and only Joe Goodberry. That shows that when AJ Green was out of the game, Dalton and Driscoll's stats were very, very similar. Driscoll was at 59.7% completion rating, Dalton at 60%. The YPA was 5.7 for Driscoll and 6.7b for Dalton. The TD interception.
Exactly. So look at it. Just look at this for a second. Dalton, just 1 second, OG. Dalton's yards per attempt, one of the best metrics for a quarterback, was 1 yard higher than Driscoll. And
1 yard higher than a third-string quarterback.
Modern NFL quarterbacks, you worry about yards per attempt, completion percentage. The other stats are not really that important. And then if you look at like his win-loss percentage, it's like twice what Driscoll's is.
Easily.
So, I mean, these stats aren't really working to your advantage, OG.
I'm just so confused.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's look at this one. John gave us this stat too. So look, you can see that Jeff Driscoll was significantly worse than Andy Dalton. Right, John?
Right. So what this means is that we look at adjusted yards per attempt, which going off of yards per attempt, it counts as touchdowns being 20 yards, interceptions as negative 45 yards. Adjusted yards per attempt is like the stepping stone to adjusted net yards per attempt, which includes sack yardage. So what this metric was originally compiled by Justice Mosqueda at JUMOSK on JMOSQ on Twitter, who's obviously really big in analytics and stuff. But basically, this compares adjusted yards per attempt to the average adjusted yards per attempt that the opposing defense gives up. So what we see here, let's just look at week 1. So against Indianapolis week 1, Dalton had an adjusted yards per attempt of 8.5. And at the season's end, Indianapolis averaged 6.55 adjusted yards per attempt. So so the difference between those two numbers is 1.95. Dalton threw the ball 28 times in that game. So when you multiply the attempts by the difference in adjusted yards per attempt, you get a total value of 55 yards. And then when you add up all of those from the season, you get a grand total of 4.81. So basically, Dalton provided an extra 4.81 yards against the average NFL quarterback. So by that sense, he is above average.
Dadio, let me hold on.
Hold on, John. You remember that Rams Patriots Super Bowl where the Rams guy stretched, or the Titans, sorry, Rams Titans, where the guy stretched.
He was short by a yard.
Short by a yard. Okay, so 4 yards could be in the difference between 4.
That's 4 times as many.
Dadio,
that's 4 Super Bowls instead of 0.
Been 4 games with those 4 yards.
We've gotten complaints from the listeners that we talk over each other. So I insist that every time I want to talk, everyone else be quiet. Dadio, I have to tell you, I know you're having a hard time visualizing what 4.81 yards looks like. So let me tell you, when you go to Taco Bell and you get your little burrito, the area, the sauce, the hot sauce is about 4.81 yards away from the burrito. Now, if you think about that, that's like a quick move your butt kind of thing. That's not impressive. Okay, listen. We all
John, can you concur? Can you corroborate that?
I went to Taco Bell like 2 days ago. My hot sauce was like 4.81 inches away from my burrito, not yards.
Well, see, even better. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I mean, we have all known. It is no secret to us that Andy Dalton is mediocre. Let alone a man who was a QB coach.
We just told you he's 4.81 yards above average.
Right.
We literally just said that.
Said above average. Above average technically means not mediocre, John.
Yeah.
So you just
exactly.
Yeah.
I see mediocre as a kind of spectrum, and on that spectrum, he's 4.81 yards away.
And compared to Driscoll, who's negative 197 yards below average, he's much better than Driscoll, at least.
Listen, I'm not saying we start Driscoll, but I'm saying imagine yourself as being Zac Taylor. You're a QB coach for the LA Rams. You know you can do better than Dalton, and he's gonna do better than Dalton. And everybody, you know what bothers me? Can I tell you, John, what bothers me? It's that everybody no one sees through Zac Taylor's demeanor. Listen, Zac Taylor was born in the year of the pig, according to the Chinese zodiac. Now, if you know anything, and I'm talking anything about people,
I don't like pigs.
Well, I mean, it's not about your personal feelings about the animal. It's that the people who are born in the year of the pig, they have a very friendly demeanor and an optimistic attitude. Okay, so this is the veneer of Zac Taylor. Okay, but you should never ever, and he's a Taurus, by the way. You should never ever assume that Zac Taylor says what he means and means what he says. Okay, he's trying to raise the price. He's trying to raise the price on Dalton, but we are not going. By year's end, Dalton will not be the coach. I mean, the QB for the Cincinnati Bengals.
John, can you concur that Hodgie used the word veneer correctly?
He used it multiple times. So veneer. It might be out of my vocabulary.
Yeah,
I don't have a PhD like Hodgie does.
I have an honorary PhD from Santa Monica College. So please, everybody needs to check themselves before they erect themselves.
All right. So we want to go to some more stats here that are. We showed that one. We showed that one.
Why don't you show the Rosen stats? Because
Well, I will get to Rosen, but one thing is people say Andy Dalton is so bad in the playoffs. Like he's the worst playoff quarterback ever.
He is.
He's not though. Statistically, I have the stats to prove that he is not. Right,
John.
This is from.
He is not the worst. The worst
is from Pro Football Outsiders. Jay Schroeder.
Okay. He's the worst. He's the one we should be trashing instead of Andy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you're telling me? Hold on, stop. You're saying he's the second worst ever, and that's okay?
Well, he's not the worst.
I'm saying the narrative that he's the worst is slanderous.
It's very alternative.
It is alternative stats. That's what I like to call them.
Yeah.
Alternative stats.
Look at that.
Where do I go with these people?
Okay, so everybody can see that. Not the worst.
No, he's not. He's the second worst ever. And you know, if you look further in those, alternative stats of yours, you'll see that basically his inability to throw deep cost us the playoff game against the Texans. Show me that stat, because it's right there. I remember I saw it in the stats.
Not a stat. I think you're thinking of the highlight that was the playoff game where I think, maybe AJ Green didn't run fast enough and Andy Dalton's pass was...
Andy Dalton, God bless his soul, he's had
I'm just joking. I love AJ Green. Obviously, it was the wind or something.
Andy Dalton, God bless his soul, has had a good
That
run.
wind definitely stuck into the dome and the Texans.
Yeah. But, they have a lot of gassy food in Texas. So it have been all sorts of wind, alternative wind, John.
Alternative.
How do I show the? I wanna make it so we can show Dalton's. Can you see this stats of Dalton, or is it covered?
I see it. You just moved it up.
Yeah. So there it is. So yeah, negative 34.9, right? And I mean, look, Mark Sanchez. These stats mean nothing. Mark Sanchez is 5th. I mean, what does that tell you?
It tells you that he's 5th. He's not last. It tells you that Mark Sanchez would have done a better job on the Bengals than Andy Dalton. I have nothing against Andy Dalton. I love Andy Dalton. He's a humanitarian, and I wish him the best. He's had a very good run. If I got the starting QB job, I'd be grateful, and I would sit out when it was my turn to sit out. And he's going to do probably well on some other team. But you trust me, if Zac Taylor has anything planned for the Bengals, it does not involve your Andy Dalton. Not for long.
It should involve Josh Rosen, though.
Yeah, that is good transition, John. Yeah. I want to talk about Josh Rosen because, as much as
when I mention Rosen, it can't be a transition. John has to mention Rosen for it to be transition. That's fine. I see how it goes, man.
Yeah. Well, if you wanted to transition in everything that you said, OG, I mean, seriously, this show would make people's heads spin. So we have here a poll that was taken on Twitter, and is a very effective poll. 815 Bengals fans voted. That is basically the entirety of Bengals Twitter. Yeah. And you have the majority saying, 72% saying the Bengals should trade for Josh Rosen.
Of course they should. Yeah,
and I'm on the Josh Rosen terrain. I think he'd be a good successor for Andy Dalton. I think he's still very young. I mean, he reminds me of Aaron Rodgers in a lot of ways, both the personality, the standoffish, but kind of mustache, his touch on deep throws. He has some really, really nice touch. He doesn't get phased by pass rush. He faced a lot of it.
And he faced a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's very young. He's very young. Which means that if we invest in him
he's younger than me.
Is he?
That's young.
Yeah.
I'm also old.
I mean, you think about the fact that, most quarterbacks, like even Andy Dalton, come out 23, 24 years old,
He was
and
21.
He came out, he was 21. He turned 22 after the season, I mean, so it's like a baby, Andy Dalton turned that age in his sophomore year, I think, right. I mean, just by comparison, I think that the fact that people are saying a mid-round pick, that's ridiculous. This guy, to be honest with you, the fact of the matter is, he didn't look great his first year, so I guess he's not worth a top 10 first-round pick. I mean, I think he is, but you're not gonna get that for him.
That's the weird thing about NFL trades, though, because I don't think anybody thinks that he's less of a player than he was when he was drafted 10th overall. But I guess because of what happened, that his value just. Oh my God! Is that Logan Baker's music?
Whoa. Logie B513 joining the podcast.
Did someone say Dalton 3 times fast?
Finally, someone to stand up for Dalton with me.
When someone says Dalton 3 times fast, Logie appears. You got to be careful, man.
In that hat, too. More importantly.
Hey, I had to make sure that my style was meeting the level of everyone else on the pod. You know what I mean?
I think you have surpassed us, sir. I salute you.
I technically required everybody on the show to have a tie, but yeah.
We didn't follow that rule at all.
I don't think a tie would look good with my official Bengals gear.
Well, no, they make Bengals ties, but yeah. So, Logie, we were talking about the fact that, first of all, Andy Dalton is breaking franchise records, and he's not getting credit for it.
Yeah.
Logie,
Second
Don't
of all,
fall for him. He's got these alternative stats. Be careful. He's not.
Well, most people don't even realize that he did pass Boomer on a couple critical stats last year.
thank you.
So
May I, Logie? May I ask which stats? I mean, are we talking about thumb breaking stats or ball dropping stats or choking under pressure stats? I mean, what
But
kind of stats?
can I say something, Hodgie? You and I remember better than actually the other two people on the show right now how bad both Carson Palmer and Esiason were towards the end of their Bengals careers. You remember?
True.
Both of them had a tendency to throw to the wrong team.
Yeah. I listen. I will never defend Carson Palmer for anything. In fact, if there are things about him that are good, they will not come on my lips because of the sheer disgust that I have for the way that he dissed our team. And by the way,
And their city, yeah.
All he wanted to do is stand to Mike Brown and
Jeremy Hill too. By the way, Jeremy Hill too. You are dead to me, Jeremy Hill. You are out of my book.
John. I just want to say one thing, John. If you throw 20 interceptions and another 20 dropped interceptions, and you have two should-be Hall of Famer receivers, and your team goes 4-12, then you have to take some of the blame. That's all I'm saying.
Sure, but Carson, I think his intentions were fine. He just wanted Mike Brown to do everything that we want.
I know, but he is not a winner. Yes, the Bengals and Mike Brown are not winners, but he also it's all of them together. He has to accept that. He was terrible. Yeah, in the playoffs.
You insult me, and you insult my team. You insult my whole family.
That's true, and that is family.
He didn't deserve garbage thrown on his yard. That was unacceptable.
Well, I'm sorry. I apologized.
You did
the
that?
facts of the matter are this, guys, that
it wasn't garbage. It was.
If he gets another
maybe he
shot,
should just have his maid clean it up like he has to do.
Can we stop talking over Logie?
He's a snob. He is a snob. Carson Palmer.
Hey,
yeah.
If Andy gets another shot this year and people don't go down with injuries at a record-breaking pace for our team, I expect that Andy's going to be firmly statistically. Now, whether people care about stats or not, that's
you should have been here earlier. We cared a lot about stats.
But he's going to be the second best quarterback. I mean, you can't take away from Boomer or Ken, that they got further.
Actually,
that's the big thing.
Dadio, show Logie the stats we had at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, Logie. These
and while you do, Logie, may I pose a question to you, Logie?
Yeah.
Please? Okay. So I was saying earlier that to me, Zac Taylor's indication that we're going to use Ross more is also an indication that we're going to use Dalton less. Because would you agree that Dalton is not good at getting the ball downfield?
I would not, actually.
Oh, please, go. I would love to hear more about this. Please, continue.
So I shared an article by, and I'm sorry because I know him mostly by his Twitter handle, John Ross, president of the John Ross fan club.
Patrick Judas.
Yes. I shared an article that he wrote at the beginning of last season, and he had the same optimism for Andy being able to use Ross as I did when I came and joined you guys last time. The thing that he pointed out is that even though we all see that Andy struggles in the deep ball, when you take the stats and the grades of every quarterback and you combine them together, Andy falls somewhere between 3rd and 9th in the NFL in his deep ball accuracy and his ability to get the ball and his grading of throwing the deep ball, which just sounds off because we see him miss those deep passes. And the thing that people don't really take into consideration is that the best quarterbacks in the NFL aren't the ones who wind up ranking higher than him every year. It's usually the quarterbacks who their teams are really needing to throw the ball down the field. So it kind of draws into question whether the whole deep ball ability is even important. And I don't know if you guys have gotten into the Josh Rosen thing yet.
We have. We're on the train already. We're heading toward Josh Rosen town. I just saw a bunch of trees pass by. We named them all after Josh Rosen.
Yeah,
you guys might be surprised to find out that I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Most people think about it.
I am surprised, but may I comment quickly, Dadio, on Logie's comments? Logie, I had the feeling, when I used to go to a strange town on my island, sometimes a cab driver you'd get in the cab and he'd start driving around and you'd be like, wait a minute, where are we? And then you'd have to pay a lot of fare to get back. No offense, I kind of feel like you just took us for a long drive because I felt like you were starting by telling us that Dalton can throw it well downfield, but then you ended by telling us that it's not really important that he can't.
Because Logie has eyes.
I think it's the fact that it's hard. It's hard across the entire league.
It's hard to throw downfield.
Yeah. And we see it in Andy, but
can do it.
He's still one of the better QBs at it in the league every year. Better being top third.
I think within 20 yards, he's good. He's great. But the problem is when you can't threaten further than that and you can't threaten downfield, the defenses can easily pick up on that, especially toward the latter half of the season when they start picking up on, okay, this ball's not going that far downfield, right? And that's why we started out the season so well and ended not so well. That's my reading of Andy Dalton. And I love the man.
I just want to challenge one thing that Logie said. He said Dalton can be the second best quarterback on the roster. And we have statistical evidence that says he is just about as good as Jeff Driscoll, even better, according to some stats. Okay? Andy Dalton is clearly the best quarterback on the roster.
No. I said he's going to be the second best quarterback in the history of our franchise.
That's funny.
Statistically, he's trailing behind
fourth.
Ken.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So fourth.
So John, hold on, Logie, tell me
what
listen,
my
guys,
buddy Andrew Hawkins on here to fight for Andy for me over Palmer.
Okay, Logie, please look. John made up these stats. Okay, alternative stats.
Made up being the key word.
He didn't make up. He looked up that.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he chooses to call them alternative stats because they're different than just touchdown and yards and stuff like that. So let's look at the first one, John. Tell Logie real quickly. We told the listeners.
I don't see it. I see Dalton against Driscoll.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so not this one. You don't want.
So you guys. We don't need to keep rehashing old stats.
Yeah.
Just tell Logie how it is. We have the stats. We cited them earlier. Just tell him what it is. Logie is a man who speaks from the heart. Speak from your heart to Logie.
Yeah, John.
Look.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, man. What I wanted to come on and talk to you guys about is like when people are arguing, oh, we need to bring Rosen in because he's gonna be able to do that deep ball. Has anybody ever looked who's like so on board with this? I think people just heard that we have a realistic possibility of getting another legitimate quarterback and just lost their minds. I like the thought of bringing Rosen in, but for him to learn from Andy's mistakes because he's very, very similar to Andy Dalton.
How?
He has a lot of similarities in his strengths and weaknesses. Look at if you go into the NFL.com scouting report, his strengths are intermediate timing and precision-based passes, short to intermediate range.
Come on, Logie. Have you watched Rosen?
I have watched Rosen.
John, why don't you share your alternative stats about the analytics of Rosen in college and high school, please?
Right. So
Please.
The good thing that Dalton had as a prospect all those years ago was that he did have solid production at TCU relative to who TCU played at the time. I believe he was productive in high school too, which there is actual data backing up that high school production doesn't matter for the quarterback position. But when you look at Rosen, who was only at UCLA for 3 years, he was drafted at just over 21 years old. He had legitimate Pro Bowl high school production. He had legitimate Pro Bowl college production over the course of the 3 years at UCLA. There is Pro Bowl potential for Rosen, and Pro Bowl potential is essentially what Andy Dalton reached because I think he made 3 of them, but he never essentially eclipsed anything consistently with that because he had that one good year in 2015 that was cut short or whatever. But also when you look at Dalton, those Pro Bowl years, the Bengals offense is pretty stacked in most of those years. They had great receivers. They had a solid offensive line. And it's always been like the defensive thing. So you just got to keep building around and keep maintaining this all-pro offense around Andy Dalton. When in reality, most quarterbacks who are successful now, they don't have all those guys healthy. They all don't have AJ Greens to throw to. They all don't have 3 to 4 almost Pro Bowl level offensive linemen. And if you have to continue keeping that talent all around the quarterback just to prop up the quarterback production, it's almost like you should just find a way to upgrade the quarterback so you don't have to invest all of that talent accumulation all over him to make sure that he's perfectly.
So here's the thing, John. Let me ask you this: you seem to be arguing like I don't like Rosen. I do like Rosen, but
I never said you didn't.
That we've established is that Rosen's floor is a lot. Oh, yep.
Hold on. As the host, Logie, you told me I should take control and say who can talk and not talk, and that's what I'm going to do here. So what John is saying is, you said they're similar quarterbacks. He's not doubting that you like Rosen. He's saying it's not really fair to compare them, and I would agree, Logie, because if you watch Josh Rosen, his touch on the deeper throws, if you watch how he stands tall in the pockets, he's a different type of quarterback.
He's just a better thrower of the ball.
He has better touch. He has better touch on his deeper throws.
I think he's the same type of quarterback.
He doesn't have to get the ball out immediately to have an impact. He can buy time. He can make plays down the field.
I feel like
if Dalton feels the pocket break just once, his feet go all wild and he runs to the right and he throws the ball away. That's what happens.
I'm going to be honest with you. If Dalton at his peak is like a 91 or whatever, Rosen, can be like a 95. I'm saying his peak is going to be is very, very, very higher, 97 even. I mean, this guy he has all the tools to be a great quarterback. It's just about being in the right situation. Whereas Dalton has all the tools to be a good enough quarterback.
So everybody's assuming that Rosen is going to be able to throw the ball deeper and he's going to be better at moving his feet. Well, that's one of the stated deficiencies, one of the weaknesses listed for him, that he can climb the pocket, but if he has to move laterally in the pocket, if he has to go side to side, I just watched almost every throw that Rosen did last year. And if he has to move side to side, his accuracy suffers. And that was a thing that Andy always struggled with. But Andy has the ability to roll out and be accurate.
But Logie, I mean, first of all, Rosen's still much younger.
Exactly.
Indeed. And that's why I want
he's 11 years younger than Dalton, and Dalton has even worse weaknesses to his game at like 32 years old.
And Dalton has improved. I mean, let's give Dalton credit. Let's not be ungrateful people, because I'm with Logie on this. See, Logie and I have a lot in common. We're both people of the heart. We don't care about stats. We care about heart. And I'm with you on that, Logie. But let's be honest. Dalton.
Logie, by the way, when you weren't here, I pointed out that Dalton is basically indestructible. He just has what they call the Dalton's thumb. That's the only.
He's got persistent thumb problems, but it's not that bad. Yeah, it's not that bad. But let me just say, as a fan, I am grateful to Andy Dalton for last season because, first of all, we had some awesome games up front, and he was winning. He became a clutch player at the ends of those games, and that was not bad. That was really not bad. So I'm grateful. But what I'm saying is, it's a new era. Marvin Lewis is gone, and the plan is to use John Ross and go deep. And I just know whether we like it or not, that Andy Dalton is not going to be a part of that plan for very long, if maybe half a season, but if that.
That is the topic of the show. So thank you for bringing us back to that, Hodgie. But what I want to say to Logie is this. Bengals interviewed Daniel Jones, okay?
Now, for those who don't know, who is Daniel Jones?
Not good.
He played quarterback.
I love you, John.
Yeah. So what I want to say is this. There are no hot shot prospects in this draft that the Bengals feel crazy about or they don't want to trade up. It's one of those two. At any rate, the fact of the matter is we haven't looked into quarterbacks in the second or third round since Andy Dalton. The last time we even looked into a guy who was more likely to make the team than not was when we drafted A.J. McCarron in 2014. So the Bengals have never seriously thought about the future.
Thank you for transitioning to the A.J. McCarron segment.
But they're doing that now. Yeah, they're doing that now, Logie. So what I'm saying is this. You're not going to find a prospect better than Josh Rosen in this draft. That's a fact. I'm sorry, but that's a fact.
I'm not arguing that.
Next year maybe. So what I'm saying is...
What about Foles?
No, Foles is, almost 30. Foles has some really great intangibles and whatnot.
Can't produce outside of Chip Kelly, but
I mean, but you look at what Josh Rosen brings in terms of arm talent and the smarts and all that. he is a future franchise quarterback if you do the right stuff to build around him. And by the way, the Bengals have like 5 quarterback coaches on their staff. So they are in perfect position to take on a young prospect with a high ceiling and let him develop. And with
you have a deal. I'll take Josh Rosen. Now, how do we get this deal done? How do we sign the paperwork?
Well, I tweeted, you can tweet as well, commotion for Rosen. I tweeted, that.
Does Zac have a? Why doesn't Zac have a? Why doesn't Zac have a Twitter?
The Bengals company, the team, because they said that they didn't hire one of the, I don't know what to call them, the lesser candidates like Hugh Jackson, largely because of fan outcry. Like they were inclined towards bringing Hugh Jackson as the head coach, or Vance, or one of those guys, but they were afraid for their lives. That is what you.
No, they weren't. They were afraid for They were afraid for their tickets. They knew that
and their money is like their soul, really.
Well,
So that brings up a big concern of mine. Is that I think that Rosen, because what I'm arguing is that we should bring in Rosen and play him behind Dalton. Well, my concern about just doing that is if people get upset when you bring in the young quarterback and then you don't play him, because in practice you see he's the better that Andy's the better quarterback right now, gives him the chance to win. Are the old McCarron guys going to turn on Zac in this franchise immediately if we bring in Rosen and don't start him?
I am the leader of the McCarron guys, and I will turn on him on an instant, on a dime, if he doesn't start Rosen right away.
Right, and we know that it turns out now that the reason that they didn't start McCarron was because he wasn't better than Andy.
Well, true.
Well, this is a matter of opinion. This is a matter of opinion.
It won't take long for people to realize that Rosen would be better than Dalton immediately. And I don't give a crap about Dalton's ego for that at all. But if it makes the team better, then it makes the team better.
Whoever's going to be the best player on Sunday should start.
Yeah.
This is not the Brett Favre.
Can I just say,
like a young, risky Andy Dalton?
No. May I just point one small thing out? I mean, Rosen already is a starter, right? So
should he be?
Yeah,
he should.
I mean,
he should.
You can't
in Arizona. Yeah.
You see, if they bring him as a starter and then they put him as a backup, that's a demotion. And plus, they have to pay Andy Dalton's salary and all that, which they don't need to do. You bring your Rosen in. And you save all that money, and he's already been a starter. You can't be like, okay, you were a starter on the Cardinals, but here you're just going to be backup. That's not going to happen. It's not like Andy Dalton's that good. Listen, he could be a backup for Aaron Rodgers, but he's not going to be a backup for Andy Dalton.
No, it's not like that. The NFL, you don't have that many opportunities. But here's the reality. Last time we had a quarterback with that great of a prospect sit for multiple years, maybe he sit for 1 year behind Dalton, and I'm fine with that except for one thing. Because you have a guy with a lot of talent sit behind a very conservative system kind of guy like, Mahomes and Alex Smith. It can give them a lot of the things they don't have. I like that idea. But the problem is we lose the trade value of Dalton,
Yes.
And, but the last time we had someone sit for multiple years that was a great prospect was Aaron Rodgers behind a Hall of Famer who went to 2 Super Bowls and won 3 straight MVPs in Brett Favre. So Dalton doesn't have that resume. Dalton, like John's saying, within a year, probably by the start of the 2020 season, he would be on the bench or traded or whatever.
It would be a Joe Flacco situation, I think.
Right. Come on. Rosen is a much better prospect than Lamar Jackson. Much more solid prospect.
So that's an interesting point, because if Rosen's better than all the guys coming out this year, and a bunch of them are going to start, and he's better than Lamar Jackson, who he got in halfway through the season, then is the NFL just setting these guys up for failure? They're cheap.
That's the nature
and
of what
they're getting drafted higher.
A first-round rookie quarterback contract is the most valuable asset in the NFL right now. That's why teams are that's why 90% of the quarterbacks who you draft in the first round end up getting traded up for, because it's so valuable to have solid quarterback play for less than $8 million a year, because the market for the quarterbacks is reaching $30 million. That's what Dak Prescott's going to get. That's what Carson Wentz is going to get. And you have to maximize that as soon as possible. That's why you have to play them early as soon as possible as well, because as we already talked about, passing efficiency is naturally going up at such an advanced rate that you can get great quarterback production from promising young quarterbacks. And the more you play them, the more you're maximizing that value.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree, John. That's a very good point. And let's be honest, if the Cardinals didn't have a 14-year-old head coach, they wouldn't be making such a irrational, impatient. And we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure. We're just going with the rumors. But if they do trade him for Kyler Murray, it is because they are not a well-run organization. This is not a level-headed move for the reasons John said. And like I said, people forget it was who's going to be over the first overall, Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold? For what, John? Months? Maybe a year?
Yeah, it was before Baker. People woke up on Baker and realized how good he was.
Great. Yeah, but Baker, you had the traditional scouts had their problems, the height and the attitude, stuff.
And I still do. I like Baker. I think he's fun, but I don't think the fun is going to last for a decade.
You're just saying that because he plays for Cleveland.
That's true. It is true. It is only. I can't believe we're going to get beat by the Browns next year. It's so sad.
Yeah, I really wish we had him on our team. I mean, that guy, his arm.
No, I mean,
have a little bit more faith.
What a slick move that was. Because didn't they? What was the guy they got that was beating up his girlfriend in the elevator? What was his name again? The
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, that was so cheap, man. There was you know about the conspiracy.
I don't think Dorsey cares. John Dorsey, the GM for the Browns. I think he has more tolerance for that like stuff than most GMs in the league do, because Dorsey also drafted Hunt in Kansas City.
Yeah, but I mean, the conspiracy theory, which is that the whole thing happened in Cleveland. You know the whole story, right?
It happened in Toledo, right?
And I don't know, but the story is somehow that they wanted him to be like, released released, and so they could pick him up, and then I don't know. They're going to be so good. We're going to lose to the Browns.
He released the video or something. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that would make him really next level kind of GM, because you do what it takes to get results. No, I'm just kidding. That's terrible. But speaking of results, I want to talk about our Patreon account. Now we have 5 patrons. 5. I'm using my ear for the 5th finger. Yeah, we have Andrew Seiler giving us $10 a month. Brian Taylor, $1. John Harden was giving us way too much money, so he brought that down, thankfully. Michael Ford. And
what does that mean? What does that mean?
I didn't feel right. I didn't feel like, I think we need a lot of patrons giving reasonable amounts, patronizing us to a reasonable level.
Yeah, the patronizing is not the word. Yeah, I can see, because you're totally against like things like taxes and public service and things like that. I know I could see you being against people giving money to our show, but it's made the show better. We have lights, we have puppet, we have a podcast, we have staff
for guests.
Yeah.
We got Logie here.
Tanner Green.
Are you ready for advertisers?
Tanner Guerin.
Yeah, man. If you want to advertise for something, go for it. Give us a cut.
In fact, Logie, how about you plug your business that I ended up being a part of a week ago?
Hold on. Let's set the price. $50. Go.
I will put it on a tab. Hopefully you'll be seeing some headshots from Logie B513 or Lifebook Logie, which is my photography website. I decided that I love watching John and everything he does, and I would hate for him to have to use a screenshot from his laptop if and when ESPN calls for his interview. So we're trying to work on some headshots for him.
Logie, can I? Sorry, can I ask you?
But let's I don't think he means he loves watching John all the time. He takes a shower, whatever. He means he means specifically on this show. Just to clarify, right, Logie?
Hey, Logie.
Okay, please.
Logie. May I ask? Every time I take a picture of myself or someone takes a picture of me, I look both fat and bald. Now, if you take a picture of me, what are you gonna do to make me look not those things?
I will make you look skinnier using correct angles, and we'll just go ahead and get a nice tight crop to eliminate all that baldness.
Oh man, you're hired. You're gonna take my I want you to take my next glamour shot, because I'm gonna use it for a lot. I'm trying to get married again. I want to go on a lot of dating sites.
Well, you know that celebrity headshots are the way of getting into the business. So who's a bigger celebrity than Hodgie the Electric Smoji?
I know that was a rhetorical question, but let me answer it. No one.
Yeah. But Logan, I just want to say
Very
this. The $50 was per 30 seconds. So we're just gonna,
you just got charged like $200, Logie. Be careful with this guy. This guy.
Can I offer free headshots?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Well, those technically would be more advertising because we were promoting your. You know what I'm saying? Like using those pictures would help your business just skyrocket, right?
Logie, I'm afraid you're dealing with the man who gave birth to capitalism in a way. He is the spirit of capitalism right here talking to you.
What is it? Why did we come to this country then? I'm very.
He sleeps. Honestly, I've seen it. The covers for his bed are all Monopoly stuff. The man is the most capitalistic, greedy person I've ever met.
A lot of get out of jail for free cards in there.
Yeah.
Well, then he should understand the value of cross promotion and synergy.
Oh yeah. I understand. That's why I gave you the price, baby. Valuable. Very valuable.
Well,
Look,
guys, I'm going to jump off here because I got to go be a dad. But I appreciate you letting me come on. And
love you.
We love you, Logie.
Love you, and we love Andy Dalton.
All of you guys proving me wrong on Twitter 100 times over.
Okay, man. All right.
See you,
and also on this show. See you later.
See you, man.
Okay, bye. All right. Well, any final comments, guys? Should we wrap this one up?
Yeah, let's wrap it.
Yeah, Dalton's average. He's average in Bengals history. He's average in the NFL, and a team should definitely trade a third-round pick for Josh Rosen. Pretty unanimously.
Listen, Zac Taylor is young. He belongs to the year of the pig. He's not, I repeat, not sincere when he says he likes Andy Dalton on the roster. No matter what we do, young people make changes quickly. He doesn't want to be patient with an old veteran who's below mediocre. And he's not like Marvin Lewis. He hasn't fallen for the nonsense. He knows, he can tell what's good and bad, and he wants an aggressive offense, and he wants a Ross-centered offense. So listen, whatever we say doesn't matter. Dalton is gone now. He might not be gone. He might not be gone at the beginning of the year, but it's going to be gone toward the middle, if not.
I think maybe 2020. But one thing I want to say is some of the stuff we've been hearing coming out of Cincinnati. We don't know if it's true, but like Alex Redmond, Bobby Hart, maybe this is stuff. The mediocrity and the being content with mediocrity. Maybe this is bigger than the coaching staff we bring in.
You don't say.
Yeah.
You don't think the big problem is the owner. That's
you're telling me, John, that is the one thing I've been negative about since the beginning.
This is new to me. I didn't know that the Bengals had a crappy owner.
No, they do. He's not crappy. He's a little too cheap. You want to be cheap, but not too cheap.
He's pretty cheap.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to us, and thank you to our patrons. And you can go to patreon.com, DH Sports, something in that order. You can just look us up. It's in the link. Also, please subscribe and leave 5-star reviews for the podcast. Sorry if I spit when I speak, on iTunes and Podbean. That is it. We will see you next time. Sweetie, bye.